The sky above Valari Prime had been beautiful once. Tejo remembered standing on this same balcony 3 years ago, watching the twin moons rise over purple clouds. The Valari had shown him their world with pride. They had pointed at their cities of crystal and light. They had introduced him to their children, their elders, their poets and scientists. Now that sky was filled with death. Tejo counted the ships again. His eyes were tired, but he forced himself to look. 217 Kroth warships hung in orbit like dark stones. They blocked out the stars. They blocked out hope. "Ambassador Tejo," a soft voice said behind him. He turned to see Lyra, the Valari council member who had become his friend. Her silver skin had lost its shine. Her large eyes, usually bright with curiosity, were dull with fear. The thin membranes that served as her ears drooped against her neck. "The council has finished their meeting," she said. "They have decided to accept the Krath terms." Tejo felt his stomach twist. "Lyra, you cannot. You know what that means." "We know." Her voice broke. "Half our population will be taken as slaves. Our technology will be stripped. Our children will be raised to serve them." She paused. "But the alternative is extinction. The Krath have made that clear." Tejo slammed his fist against the balcony railing. The pain felt good. It reminded him he was still alive, still able to feel something other than helpless rage. "There must be another way," he said. Lyra made a sound that was almost a laugh. "We sent requests to every allied species in this sector. The Mordani refused. The Trillic refused. Even the Galactic Assembly refused. They say the Krath Dominion is too powerful. They say intervention would mean war." She looked up at the ships filling their sky. "No one is coming, Tejo. No salvation awaits us." Below the balcony, the streets of the capital city were crowded. Thousands of Valari moved in slow, shuffling groups. Some carried small bags of belongings. Others carried children. All of them moved toward the shelters that the council had opened. Though everyone knew the shelters would not save them from orbital bombardment, a young mother stopped in the street. She was holding an infant against her chest. The baby was crying, making small sounds that Tejo could hear even from this height. The mother looked up at the sky, at the ships, and then she simply sat down on the ground. She held her child and rocked back and forth. She had given up. "I am not authorized to intervene," Tejo said. The words tasted like ash in his mouth. "Earth Command has ordered all human personnel to evacuate. They say this is not our conflict." "We understand," Lyra said. She placed her thin hand on his arm. "You have been a good friend to our people, Tejo. We do not blame humanity. We know the Krath are strong. We know the cost of fighting them." "I do not care about the cost," Tejo said. "I care that good people are about to suffer, and I am standing here doing nothing." His communication device buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out and saw the message. It was from the human evacuation ship waiting in a hidden position behind the system's largest moon. They were giving him 1 hour to reach the transport station. After that, they would leave with or without him. Tejo looked at the message for a long moment. Then he deleted it. "What are you doing?" Lyra asked. "Something stupid," he said. "Something that will probably get me court-martialed or killed." He began typing on his device. "I know someone. A ship captain. We served together before I became a diplomat. A ship captain cannot fight 200 warships." "No," Tejo agreed. "But she might try anyway." "That is the thing about humans, Lyra. Sometimes we do things that make no sense. Sometimes we fight when we cannot win. Sometimes we refuse to accept what is possible." He finished his message and sent it into the void. It was encrypted using an old code that only 2 people in the galaxy knew. It would take hours to reach its destination. It might be intercepted. It might be ignored. The captain might be too far away. Or she might have orders that she actually followed, but Tejo had to try. "Come," he said to Lyra. "We should go to the shelters with your people. If the Krath decide to bombard the surface before invasion, the underground levels will offer some protection. You are staying?" Lyra asked. Her voice held a tiny spark of something that might have been hope. I am staying. They walked together through the crystal corridors of the council building. Valari officials passed them, carrying documents and equipment. Some were crying. Others moved in shocked silence. The normal sounds of a living government had been replaced by the quiet desperation of people preparing for the end. In the central hall, a large display showed the orbital situation. The Krath ships had formed a perfect sphere around the planet. There was no gap in their formation. No way in or out. The Dominion had done this many times before. They were efficient at conquest. The Krath commander has broadcast his final warning, an official announced. We have until sunrise to signal our surrender. If we do not, they will begin destroying cities from orbit. They will start with the coastal regions and move inland. Tejo closed his eyes. Sunrise was 6 hours away. 6 hours until everything ended. He thought about his message, flying through space toward a woman who had once told him that some orders deserved to be broken. He thought about the last time he had seen Commander Yuna, standing on the deck of her ship, with fire in her eyes, telling him that the galaxy needed more people who cared about right and wrong. Do you believe in miracles? Lyra asked him quietly. Tejo looked at the display. He looked at the 217 ships waiting to destroy a world. He looked at the timer counting down to dawn. I believe in stubborn humans who do not know when to quit, he said. Sometimes that is close enough. They descended into the shelters together. Above them, the Krath waited. Around them, a civilization prepared to die. And somewhere in the cold void of space, a message traveled toward the only hope they had left. A hope that wore a uniform and commanded a single ship against an empire. The HSS Defiance was an old ship. She had been built 40 years ago, back when humanity was still learning how to travel between stars. Her hull was scarred from a dozen battles. Her engines made strange sounds that the mechanics could never quite fix. Her corridors were narrow, her bunks were small, and her mess hall served the same recycled protein in 15 different forms. Commander Yuna loved every inch of her. She was sitting in her quarters, reviewing supply reports, when the encrypted message arrived. The encryption was old. Nobody used those codes anymore. Yuna stared at the blinking alert for a full minute before she opened it. The message was short. It contained coordinates, a situation report, and 3 words at the end. Please help them. Yuna read it twice. Then she pulled up the star charts and found the Valari system. It was far. Very far. Even at maximum speed, the Defiance would need 20 hours to get there. The Valari surrender deadline was in less than 6. She should delete the message. She should pretend she never received it. Earth Command had sent clear orders to all ships. The Krath situation was to be observed, but not engaged. Humanity had no treaty with the Valari. Humanity had no obligation to fight a war against the Dominion. Yuna stood up and walked to her small window. Outside, stars drifted past like cold diamonds. Somewhere out there, an entire species was waiting to be enslaved or killed. Somewhere out there, Tejo was standing with them, refusing to leave. That stubborn fool. She had always known his conscience would get him killed. She pressed the communication panel. Senior crew to the briefing room. Now. 5 minutes later, Yuna stood before her officers. Lieutenant Jiwoo, her navigation specialist, looked half asleep. Chief Engineer Sunho was still wiping grease from his hands. Medical Officer Minji had brought a cup of coffee that she clutched like a lifeline. Weapons Officer Do Hyun sat perfectly straight, already sensing that something important was happening. I have received an unauthorized distress call, Yuna said. She activated the display and showed them the Valari system. 217 Krath warships are surrounding this planet. The local population has been given until dawn to surrender. If they refuse, the Krath will begin killing them from orbit. That is terrible, Minji said softly. But what does it have to do with us? We are 3 sectors away. The message came from Ambassador Tejo. He is asking for help. Silence fell over the room. Everyone knew Tejo. He had served on the Defiance before his diplomatic appointment. He had been the best communications officer Yuna had ever worked with. Commander, Jiwoo said slowly, Even at maximum speed, we cannot reach them in time. Not through normal space, Yuna agreed. But there is another way. She brought up a different chart. The Void Corridor. Sunho made a choking sound. You cannot be serious. The Void Corridor was a region of space that defied normal physics. Ships that entered it could travel impossible distances in short times. Ships that entered it also had a tendency to disappear forever. Nobody understood how it worked. Nobody understood why some ships survived and others did not. If we enter here, Yuna said, pointing to a spot on the map, and exit here, we can reach the Valari system in 4 hours. If we survive, Dohyun said. If we survive, Yuna agreed. And if we survive, we will be one ship against 217. We will be outgunned, outnumbered, and completely alone. Earth Command will not send reinforcements. When they find out what we have done, they will probably arrest everyone on this ship. She looked at each of her officers in turn. I am not going to order you to do this. I am not even going to ask. I am going to tell you what I am going to do. And you can decide whether to join me. She took a breath. I am going to take this ship through the Void Corridor. I am going to place myself between the Krath fleet and the Valari planet. And I am going to make the Dominion understand that some worlds are not theirs to take. With one ship? Jiwoo asked. One ship is enough to make a statement. One ship is enough to prove that someone cared. Even if we fail, even if we die, the galaxy will know that humanity did not stand aside and watch innocent people suffer. Minji set down her coffee cup. I became a doctor to save lives. I did not become a doctor to sit safely while others die. She nodded. I am with you, Commander. Sunho sighed heavily. The Defiance is held together with tape and prayer. She is too old for this. He cracked his knuckles. But so am I. And I am still here. Count me in, Jiwoo laughed nervously. I joined the fleet to see strange parts of the galaxy. The Void Corridor certainly qualifies. He began calculating courses on his tablet. We will need to accelerate to full speed in 15 minutes to catch the optimal entry window. Dohyun had not spoken. Yuna looked at him. Lieutenant, you have been quiet. The weapons officer stood. He was a large man with a calm face and steady hands. In all the years Yuna had known him, she had never seen him angry. She had never seen him afraid. My grandmother survived the Krath raid on Colony 7, he said. She was one of 40 survivors out of 8,000. The Dominion took everyone else. Children, elders, everyone. His jaw tightened. I have waited my entire career for a chance to face them. I am not going to miss it now. Yuna felt something warm spread through her chest. Pride, gratitude, love for these crazy, wonderful people who had chosen to follow her into certain death. Then let us go save a world, she said. The next 15 minutes were chaos. The ship came alive as the crew prepared for what was coming. Alerts sounded. Stations were locked down. In the engine room, Sunho pushed the old drives harder than they had ever been pushed. Yuna stood on the bridge and watched the Void Corridor approach on the main display. It looked like a wound in space, a place where light bent wrong and sensors gave impossible readings. Ships had been lost there. Ships had gone mad there. But ships had also emerged on the other side, traveling distances that should have taken months in mere hours. Entry in 60 seconds, Jiwoo announced. Yuna gripped her chair. Around her crew sat ready at their stations. Nobody spoke. Nobody needed to. Remember, she said quietly, we do this for the Valari. We do this for Taeho. We do this because someone has to stand up when everyone else sits down. The Void Corridor swallowed them. For a moment that lasted forever, and no time at all, reality came apart. Colors that had no names flashed past the viewports. Sounds that had no source echoed through the halls. Yuna felt herself stretching across infinite space, connected to every star and planet in existence. Then it was over. The Defiance burst out of the void like a bullet from a gun. Ahead of them, the Valari system burned with the light of 217 hostile ships, and behind those ships, a beautiful world waited for salvation. All stations report, Yuna commanded. One by one, her officers confirmed that they had survived. The ship was intact. They had made it. Now came the hard part. Open all channels, Yuna said. I want every ship in this system to hear what I am about to say. Ji-Woo worked his console. Channels open, Commander. Yuna stood. She straightened her uniform. She looked at the massive fleet that waited to destroy everything she had come to protect, and she smiled. Attention, Krath Dominion Fleet. This is Commander Yuna of the HSS Defiance. I am here to offer you one chance to withdraw. Take it, or face the consequences. The reply came in seconds. It was laughter. The Krath had no idea what was coming. Deep in the shelters beneath the capital city, Taeho sat with hundreds of Velari refugees. The air was thick with fear. Children cried in their parents' arms. Elders sat in silence, remembering better times. Nobody spoke of hope anymore. The surrender ceremony was scheduled for dawn. Council leader Voron had agreed to the Krath terms. In a few hours, he would broadcast the words that would end his people's freedom forever. Half the population would be taken, the rest would serve. 1,000 years of civilization would be erased. Taeho had tried to convince them to fight. He had tried to convince them to resist. But what could he say? He was one human with no army, no fleet, no power. His message to Yuna had been an act of desperation. Nothing more. Lyra sat beside him. She had not spoken in hours. I am sorry, Taeho said finally. I thought someone would come. You sent your message, she replied. That is more than anyone else did. Above them, the ceiling shook. Dust fell from ancient stone. Everyone looked up in terror. The bombardment was not supposed to start until after sunrise. Had the Krath changed their minds? Had they decided that surrender was not enough? Then the communication systems crackled to life. A voice filled the shelter. It was speaking in standard galactic trade language, but the accent was unmistakably human. Attention, Krath Dominion Fleet. This is Commander Yuna of the HSS Defiance. I am here to offer you one chance to withdraw. Take it, or face the consequences. Taeho jumped to his feet. His heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. It was impossible. She could not be here. There was no way she could have arrived so fast, but that was Yuna's voice. He would recognize it anywhere. Lyra grabbed his arm. Taeho, what is happening? Who is that? A miracle, he whispered. A crazy, stubborn, beautiful miracle. All across the shelter, Velari were looking up. They did not understand yet. They did not know what one human ship could mean against so many enemies, but Taeho knew. He pushed through the crowd toward the main communication station. An official was already there, pulling up external sensors. The display flickered to life, showing the orbital situation. The Krath fleet had not moved. They still formed their perfect sphere around the planet. But there, at the edge of the formation, was a single dot that had not been there before. One ship. One human warship. Facing an empire alone. She actually came, Taeho said. His voice broke on the words. She actually came. On the display, they watched as the Krath commander responded to Yuna's challenge. The alien's harsh language filled the channel. One ship? You threaten us with one ship? Human. You are either brave or stupid. Perhaps both. Leave now, and we will let you live. Stay, and you will burn with these pathetic creatures. Yuna's reply was calm, almost casual. I am giving you this one chance, because I believe in second opportunities. But I should warn you about something. Do you know what happened to the Krath raiding force that attacked Colony 7 40 years ago? Silence on the channel. No? Let me tell you. 3,000 of your warriors landed on that colony. They killed 8,000 civilians. Women, children, elderly. They showed no mercy. Yuna paused. When the human fleet arrived, we showed no mercy either. Not one of your 3,000 warriors survived. Not one of your ships escaped. We hunted them for 6 months across 12 star systems. We did not stop until every single one was dead. The Krath commander made an angry sound. That was long ago. We are stronger now. Maybe. But here is something you need to understand about humans. We remember. We remember every person you killed. We remember every world you destroyed. We remember every family you tore apart. Yuna's voice hardened. And when we fight for something we believe in, we do not stop. We do not surrender. We do not die quietly. You have one ship. I have one ship today. But if you touch this planet, if you harm one single Valari child, humanity will come for you. Not tomorrow. Not next year. We will come when you have forgotten us. We will come when your children think they are safe. We will come, and we will remind you why the galaxy learned to fear the humans of Earth. In the shelter, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The Valari stared at the display with wide eyes. Watching this human woman challenge an entire invasion fleet, with nothing but words and will. You are bluffing, the Krath commander said, but his voice had lost some of its confidence. Am I? Then call my bluff. Start your bombardment. Kill everyone on this planet. And then spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder, waiting for us to come. The channel went silent. On the display, the Krath ships remained in formation. They did not attack. They did not advance. For the first time since they arrived, they hesitated. Lyra appeared at Teho's side. Her silver skin was flushed with something he had not seen in days. Hope. Can one ship really stop them? She asked. No, Teho admitted. One ship cannot defeat that fleet. But that is not what she is doing. She is not trying to win a battle. She is trying to make them think about what comes after. I do not understand. Teho smiled. It was a tired smile, but a real one. The Krath are conquerors. They calculate costs and benefits. Right now, their commander is thinking about what it means to have humanity as an enemy. He is thinking about 40 years of hunting. He is thinking about what we did to his people after Colony 7. He is thinking about whether this planet is worth starting a war. But your government said they would not intervene. Our government said many things. But Yuna is here, is she not? One human came when her government told her to stay away. How many more might come, if the Krath give them a reason? On the display, the standoff continued. The Defiance hung motionless in space. A tiny point of defiance against overwhelming force. The Krath ships circled like predators trying to decide if their prey was really as dangerous as it claimed. Then new contacts appeared on the sensors. Teho leaned forward, fear gripping his heart. Krath reinforcements? More ships to guarantee the conquest? But the signatures were wrong. These were not Krath vessels. What is that? Lyra asked. The communication channel crackled again. New voices joined the conversation. This is Captain Hana of the independent freighter Morning Star. We heard the broadcast. We are not a warship. But we have shields, and we are not leaving. This is the Valari Mining Consortium vessel Deep Stone. We were evacuating when we heard your commander. We have turned around. If you are staying, we are staying. This is the passenger liner Silver Dream. We have 3,000 civilians on board, including 500 Valari refugees. We will not abandon our friends. One by one, ships emerged from hiding. Freighters. Mining vessels. Passenger transports. Civilian craft with no weapons, no armor, no training for combat. They were not warships, they were not soldiers, but they were coming anyway. They formed a ragged line beside the Defiance. 20 ships. Then 30. Then 50. Most of them would be destroyed in seconds if the Krath attacked. It did not matter. They came anyway, because one human had taught them that sometimes showing up is enough. Yuna's voice returned to the channel. She sounded surprised but pleased. Well, Commander, it seems I am not alone after all. Would you like to reconsider your position? The Krath commander did not respond. But on the display, Teho watched the enemy formation begin to shift. Ships were moving. Not toward the planet, away from it. Lyra grabbed his hand. Her grip was tight enough to hurt. Are they leaving? Taeho, are they leaving? He did not answer. He was afraid to hope. He was afraid to believe. But the ships kept moving. One by one, the Krath warships turned away from Valari Prime. One by one, they accelerated toward the edge of the system. The Dominion was retreating. The Krath were leaving, but they were not gone yet. On the bridge of the Defiance, Yuna watched the enemy fleet begin its slow withdrawal. Her hands were steady on the arms of her chair, but inside she was shaking. The bluff had worked. The impossible gamble had paid off. Then the sensors screamed a warning. "Commander," Do-hyun shouted. "5 Krath destroyers breaking formation. They are heading directly for us." Yuna saw them on the display. 5 warships, each one larger than the Defiance, each one bristling with weapons. They had separated from the main fleet and were accelerating hard. The Krath commander was testing her. He wanted to see if the human would really fight, or if she would run. "All civilian ships, retreat to minimum safe distance," Yuna ordered over the open channel. "This is not your fight." "Commander Yuna," Captain Hana's voice replied. "We did not come here to run away. Captain, those destroyers will cut through your ship in seconds. You have no weapons. You cannot help me in combat. Then we will help you by staying. If they want to reach the planet, they will have to go through all of us." Yuna closed her eyes for a moment. These people were going to die. These brave, foolish, wonderful people were going to throw away their lives because she had inspired them to stand up. She could not let that happen. "Lieutenant Jiwoo," she said quietly, "plot an intercept course. Put us between the destroyers and the civilian fleet." "Commander, that will expose us to all 5 ships at once." "I know. Do it anyway." The Defiance surged forward. Sunho pushed the old engines harder than they had ever been pushed. The ship groaned and shook, but she held together. She always held together. The 5 Krath destroyers adjusted their course to meet her. They spread into an attack formation, preparing to catch the human ship in a crossfire. Their weapons charged with killing light. "They are hailing us," Jiwoo reported. "Put it through." A new voice filled the bridge. It was cold and cruel. The voice of a Krath captain who had killed thousands and felt nothing. "Human. Your courage is admirable, but your stupidity is greater. 1 ship cannot defeat 5. Surrender now, and I will make your death quick." Yuna smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Do you know what the Defiance has survived? We have been through 3 major battles, 2 border skirmishes, and a navigation error that sent us through a collapsing star. This old ship has been broken and rebuilt more times than I can count." She stood up. "You want to know why we named her Defiance? Because she refuses to die. And so do I. Pretty words will not save you. No, but these might." Yuna nodded at Do-hyun. "Fire." The Defiance opened up with everything she had. Missile bays emptied, energy cannons blazed. The old ship threw every weapon at the lead destroyer, concentrating all her firepower on a single target. The Krath shields flared under the assault. They held, but barely. The destroyer staggered, its formation broken. Return fire came immediately. The Defiance rocked as enemy weapons struck her shields. Warning alarms filled the bridge. A console exploded in a shower of sparks. Minji rushed to help a wounded crew member. "Shields at 60%, Sunho shouted from engineering. "We cannot take many more hits like that." "Keep firing," Yuna commanded. "Focus everything on the lead ship. If we can take one down, the others might hesitate." Do-hyun worked his controls with fierce concentration. Weapon after weapon launched toward the enemy. The Krath destroyer was taking damage now. Smoke poured from breaches in its hull. Its shields flickered and died. One final missile struck home. The destroyer exploded in a brilliant flash of light. "One down," Jiwoo cheered. But 4 remained, and they were angry. The Krath ships closed in from all sides. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The Defiance twisted and turned, but she was an old ship, slow compared to these hunters. Weapons fire slammed into her from every direction. "Shields failing," Sunho reported. "Hull breach on deck 3. We have fires in the cargo bay. Yuna gripped her chair as another impact shook the ship. On the display, she could see the civilian fleet holding position behind her. They had not run. They were trusting her to protect them. She would not fail them. Do-hyun, target the ship on our port side. Everything we have left. Commander, we are almost out of missiles. Then give them everything. Make every shot count. The Defiance turned toward the nearest destroyer. At this range, they could not miss. But neither could the enemy. It was going to come down to who could take more punishment. The human ship fired. The Krath ship fired. Both vessels shuddered under the assault. The Krath destroyer broke apart, but the Defiance was dying too. Her shields were gone. Her hull was torn in a dozen places. Atmosphere leaked into space. The lights flickered as power systems failed. Engines offline, Sunho shouted. We are dead in space. 2 destroyers remained. They circled the crippled human ship like sharks around bleeding prey. They did not fire. They were savoring the moment. Human. The Krath captain's voice returned. You have fought well. Better than I expected. But it ends now. Any last words? Yuna looked around her bridge. Jiwoo was bleeding from a cut on his forehead. Minji was treating burns on her own hands. Do-hyun sat at his station. Hands ready on weapons that had nothing left to fire. They had known this might happen. They had come anyway. Last words? Yuna repeated. She thought about Taeho down on the planet. She thought about the Valari children in those shelters. She thought about everyone who would live because they had bought time for the main Krath fleet to retreat. Just these, she said. It was worth it. The Krath captain prepared to give the order to destroy them, and then space lit up with new fire. Yuna did not understand at first. The Krath destroyers were exploding, but no one was shooting at them. No one was there. Then she saw them. Ships emerging from behind the planet's moon. Ships that had been hiding, waiting, watching. Valari ships. They were old vessels, civilian craft modified with whatever weapons could be found. Mining lasers and cargo haulers, and atmospheric shuttles with jury-rigged missile tubes. They were not warships. They were a fleet of desperation, cobbled together by a people who had decided they would rather fight than surrender. The 2 Krath destroyers tried to respond, but they were caught off guard. The Valari fleet swarmed them like insects attacking giants. It was not pretty. It was not tactical. It was pure, burning rage from a people who had been told they were helpless. Within minutes, it was over. The Krath destroyers were debris. The remaining invasion fleet, seeing what had happened, accelerated their retreat. They did not look back. A voice came over the communication channel. It was Lyra. Commander Yuna, on behalf of the Valari people, I want to thank you. Yuna tried to respond, but her voice caught in her throat. She had expected to die. She had been ready to die. And instead, she was alive. And so was everyone she had come to save. You saved us first, she finally managed. No, Lyra replied. You showed us how to save ourselves. You reminded us that hope is always worth fighting for. Around the Defiance, the ragged fleet of survivors began to gather. Civilian ships and Valari ships and one broken human warship that had refused to give up. They had won. Against all odds, against all logic, they had won. Yuna slumped in her chair and laughed. It was a sound of relief and joy and exhaustion all mixed together. The sun was rising over Valari Prime. And for the first time in days, it rose on a free world. 3 days had passed since the battle. The Defiance floated in orbit above Valari Prime, her wounds being slowly repaired by teams of Valari engineers who had volunteered to help. The ship would fly again. She always did. Yuna stood on the observation deck, watching the planet below. The crystal cities sparkled in the sunlight. Streets that had been filled with terrified refugees were now filled with celebrations. The Valari people were dancing, singing, crying with joy. They had been given a second chance at life. The door behind her opened. She did not need to turn around to know who it was. You look terrible, Taeho said. Yuna smiled. You should see the other ships. He came to stand beside her. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. They just watched the world they had saved together. Earth Command has been trying to contact you, Taeho said finally. I know. I have been ignoring them. They are not happy. The words court-martial have been mentioned several times. Yuna shrugged. Let them come. I did what was right. If that makes me a criminal, then the law is wrong. Taeho laughed softly. I told them the same thing. I also told them that if they try to arrest you, they will have to go through the entire Valari civilization first. The Council has declared you a planetary hero. There are already statues being planned. Statues? Yuna made a face. I hate statues. They always make people look so stiff and serious. Too late. Lyra personally commissioned 3 of them. They stood in comfortable silence for another moment. Below them, a Valari shuttle launched from the surface, carrying supplies to help repair the damaged ships in orbit. The cooperation between humans and Valari had been immediate and natural. 2 species who had barely known each other 3 days ago were now working together like old friends. What happens now? Yuna asked. Now things change, Taeho replied. The Galactic Assembly is calling an emergency session. The Krath retreat has shocked everyone. A single human ship faced down an entire invasion fleet. That story is spreading across every system in the sector. I did not do it alone. The civilian ships, the Valari fleet, everyone who came together made this happen. Yes. But you started it. You showed them what courage looks like. Taeho paused. The Mordani ambassador has already reached out. They want to discuss a mutual defense agreement. The Trillic are talking about reopening trade negotiations. Species that refused to help the Valari 3 days ago are now asking how they can stand with humanity. Yuna turned to look at him. And the Krath? They have retreated to their core systems. Intelligence reports suggest their leadership is in chaos. The commander who ordered the retreat has been executed, but the damage is done. Other dominated species are starting to question whether the Dominion is really as invincible as they claimed. Good. Let them question. Let them see that tyrants can be beaten. The observation deck doors opened again. Minji entered, her arm bandaged from the burns she had suffered during the battle. Behind her came Jiwoo, Sunho, and Dohyun. The senior crew of the Defiance had come to find their commander. We are not interrupting anything, are we? Minji asked with a knowing smile. Just watching the planet, Yuna replied. What is the repair status? 2 more days, and we will be spaceworthy, Sunho reported. The Valari engineers are incredible. They have figured out how to fix systems that even I did not understand. The weapons are already back online, Dohyun added. If anyone else wants to test us, we are ready. Jiwoo held up a datapad. We have also received 17 requests for interviews, 9 offers of honorary citizenship from various planets, and 1 marriage proposal from a Valari noble. A marriage proposal? Yuna raised her eyebrow. Apparently you are considered very attractive by Valari standards. Something about your fierce eyes and warrior spirit. 1. The bridge crew laughed. Even Taeho smiled. Yuna looked at her people. These were the ones who had followed her into death. These were the ones who had believed in her when believing meant risking everything. They were tired, wounded, and far from home, and they were still smiling. I want to thank all of you, she said. What we did here was impossible. It should not have worked. But you trusted me, and you trusted each other, and together we did something that will be remembered for generations. It was easy, Sunho said. You told us to do something crazy. We did it. And somehow we lived. Same as always. That is not quite how I remember it, Yuna replied. Commander, Minji said gently. We followed you because you have never asked us to do anything you would not do yourself. When you said you were going to stand against 200 ships, we knew you meant it. How could we do any less? The communication panel beeped. Jiwoo checked it. Council Leader Vorin is requesting permission to come aboard. He wants to thank the crew personally. Tell him he is welcome, Yuna said. Tell him this ship is always open to friends. As Jiwoo sent the response, Taeho moved closer to Yuna. His voice was low, meant only for her. What you did was reckless, dangerous, probably illegal, and absolutely necessary. He took her hand. Thank you for answering my message. Did you really think I would ignore it? I hoped you would not. But I would have understood if you did. The risk was enormous. Yuna squeezed his hand. Some things are worth the risk. Some people are worth fighting for. She looked out at the planet below. Every person down there gets to wake up free tomorrow. Every child gets to grow up without chains. That is worth any price. The shuttle carrying Vorin docked with the Defiance. Soon the ship would be filled with grateful Volari, with politicians and reporters and curious civilians who wanted to see the humans who had saved them. The quiet moment would end. But for now, Yuna stood with her crew and her friend, watching the sun rise over a world that should have been enslaved. Somewhere out in the galaxy, the Krath were retreating, and other oppressed peoples were beginning to wonder if they too could fight back. Somewhere, species who had always accepted tyranny were starting to ask questions. One ship had started all of this, one crew. One moment of defiance that had rippled outward like waves across still water. What do we do now? Jiwoo asked. Yuna smiled. It was the smile of a warrior who had found her purpose. Now we go home. We face whatever judgment Earth Command wants to give us. And then we keep doing what we did here. She turned to face her crew. There are other worlds out there being threatened, other peoples waiting for someone to stand with them. The Defiance may be one ship, but we have proven that one ship can change history. We cannot save everyone. Do-hyun said quietly. No, Yuna agreed. But we can try. And sometimes trying is enough. Sometimes showing up, standing up, refusing to look away, that is the spark that lights the fire. She looked at each of them in turn. Are you with me? They answered as one. Always. And in the light of a free world sun, the crew of the Defiance began preparing for whatever came next. They did not know what challenges waited ahead. They did not know what enemies they would face, but they knew one thing for certain. They would face them together. No salvation had been coming for the Volari. Then, a human warship rose from the void, crewed by people who believed that hope was worth fighting for. And everything changed. The end.